YouTube? It's Tired Metalhead Weatherman. I hope you guys are having a good start to the weekend. Apologize for not having the video up last night. I started to make one, but I never got through the whole export and finishing the whole production process there. Excuse me. And as a result, by the time I realized it was already morning, so that video was out of date. So here I am starting fresh. Anyways, here I'm gonna jump right into it here. There's a little bit to talk about here, but we may actually get a daily double from me because there's more stuff to talk about next week. So we'll see what happens. But as far as the weekend is concerned, we actually have no real major concentrated area of severe weather to talk about. We do have this marginal risk here, but these are mainly for just maybe scattered thunderstorms, and a couple of them could pulse severe. It's not a situation in which we have a seriously concentrated threat of anything above 5%. But basically any area from just to the west of Green Bay towards Wyoming and Colorado, you could see a pulse severe thunderstorm with damaging wind or hail. Tornado threat is minimal. Conditions are not ideal, so it's a relatively calm time around the country, which is good. I do think things will be picking up next week, and I'll go over that in another video. So let's go ahead and quickly talk about what we have in store for the next couple of days. We'll start out with the temperatures, obviously. In all fairness, I really think it's just the same old song and dance based off of what I've seen on these models lately. There are changes coming. Again, that would be in the next video. But for right now, around the eastern half of the country in particular, it's hot, but we're also in this little battle zone here, and there's no real movement. So anywhere around this region in particular here, where I have this cursor, we're watching for the development of afternoon summertime thunderstorms. But these are going to have pretty heavy rainfall rates with them. So pretty much anyone in this area that I'm trying to outline here could be at risk for some flash flooding. In fact, over in my area yesterday, we had a pulse severe thunderstorm pop up over my area, and we had a flash flood warning, and it was a pretty interesting time. I mean, so far there haven't been any real damage reports, so that's always good, but that's just a reminder that it can happen anywhere at any given time if conditions are right. But as of right now, the temperatures, we pretty much know the situation. Just about everybody's hot, everybody's above average. Towards the central plains, you guys are extremely dry, and it looks like it's unfortunately going to stay that way this weekend. And a lot of areas are going to be pushing to triple digits, especially as we go towards the Red River Valley and over towards Kansas. We even have some triple digits working their way all the way into Iowa, which is crazy. Southwest, we also see you guys getting into the triple digits, but we also are watching the monsoonal flow for the development of thunderstorms. So you guys have your own little flood threat to be dealing with as well. Right around the Rockies, I think, is the best area in the country right now as far as temperatures are concerned. You guys are the only ones that seem like y'all are going to be moderately comfortable, I would say. But let's move this along, and then we get into Sunday. We push our way into Sunday, and then it's pretty much the same deal. Unless you're in the Rockies or in an area where we have thunderstorm activity expected, you're really not going to get too much of a break from the heat. It's just going to be hot for everybody. We'll even push this into Monday here, and even in the early morning hours for a lot of people, it's still going to be pretty daggone hot, and it looks like my computer's freezing. Okay, there we go. Alright, so let's actually go ahead and look at the capes here, because here's the thing. Yes, there is no concentrated area of severe weather, but we do always want to watch the Cape values during this time of year, because we're an area where there's a chance of thunderstorms. The higher the Cape value, the more fuel that storm has to work with, which can also lead to the development of a pulse severe thunderstorm, or a storm that ends up having some pretty hefty rainfall rates and can still cause a lot of problems. So we're going to go ahead and take a quick look at that too. Mainly anything above 500 joules, which will be indicated here in the gray, indicates an environment that will be conducive for a storm to fire here. But it's when we start getting over the 2000s here is where we're going to be paying a little bit closer attention. So around a lot of these regions, like this is our marginal risk area, so this is not a surprise here at all to be seeing some activity here where we're looking at over 2,000, even 3,000 joules per kilogram. So the atmosphere is charged up enough to cause some severe weather possibly. And then as we go into Sunday, we watch this kind of move off into Illinois and Indiana here, and there's actually a bit of a concern for a flood threat here. I'll actually go ahead and outline that. Not outline that, we'll go ahead and actually talk about that here in just a moment. But we'll move that along. We'll move this along here if the computer won't freeze. There we go. Getting somewhere now. But the capes around here are also around that 2,000 joules mark, so we're going to have to watch for a little bit of severe weather, and we're also going to have to watch for the threat of flash flooding here. And this area has been hit pretty hard recently as well, and unfortunately another area that we're concerned about once again is eastern Kentucky. So if you go back on this map, we also have an area over here, just like I had been talking about around here, where we're hitting that 2,000 plus joules per kilogram mark. So if you guys are out here in eastern Kentucky, be leery, especially as we're working on these recovery efforts. We're hoping that you guys can get a break soon, but we're in this really crazy pattern where we just can't seem to get away from them, get away from our storms here. Excuse me. And that's the end of our run here. We'll go ahead and take a look at the excessive rainfall outlook. This is kind of how we figure out where our greatest areas of risk are in regards to flash flooding. And unfortunately, just as I had mentioned, even today we have a slight risk over eastern Kentucky and parts of West Virginia, areas that have been hit pretty hard last week. You guys want to be on the lookout yet again. This isn't a moderate risk like last week, fortunately, but don't let your guard down. We've already been hit hard. The ground's still very saturated there, and there's no reason as to why we can't have more problems over there. And then, of course, where our severe weather region is, there's almost always a slight risk as there's a chance of these storms training over the same areas and dropping a lot of rainfall here. So we'll have to watch you guys real close. And then on day 2, our monsoonal region's back in play. Over towards the Four Corners, there's a few areas of interest where we could have a slightly greater than average chance of excessive rainfall there. And then the threat shifts from eastern Kentucky. Well, it's not as focused over eastern Kentucky, and now we're looking more towards the Chicago area. So be on the lookout for potential flooding and excessive rainfall. Alright, we'll go ahead and take one more look at what the radar could look like over the next 48 hours, and then we'll get a look at those rainfall totals real quick, and I'll be out you guys' hair. Oh jeez, come on computer, there we go. So here's our first storm. Here is our storm system that we're expecting today, right around Minnesota, right around Iowa. This is actually supposed to be forming relatively soon. This is the little small MCS, mesoscale convective system. Here's our pop-up storms around the southeast that we'll need to be looking out for. It may not exactly look like this, so don't think that what you're seeing here is exactly what you're going to get. This is just a rough idea. And this model updates every hour, so what I'm showing you now could very well change within the next 45 minutes. Alright, and here's our MCS right here going through parts of Iowa, Wisconsin, southern parts of Minnesota, and working its way towards Chicago. I expect this to hit over in that region in the early parts of Sunday morning. And basically, like I said, it's the kind of setup that you don't want to see if you're looking for flash flooding. This MCS kind of dies out, but it forms like an outflow boundary right here, and then we have these storms popping up behind it, and rain's just going to be traveling over the same areas. The looks of it for the better part of the day, and there may still be more storms yet to form behind that. Once again, we have our little setup around the south and east, and then here is our low pressure right here that's sitting over the Four Corners region, bringing in that monsoonal flow and causing more thunderstorms to form. But we're also going to keep an eye on this storm because this will be a key player in what starts to happen in the early part of next week. So we're going to go to the end of the model run here. Once again, we have more storms popping up over this region once more. And then I do think the flood threat will shift a little further off to the east in regards to Monday. So we might have to watch around the Ohio Valley. We'll have to watch towards maybe Buffalo as well. There's no there's no concentrated area of severe weather, but basically anywhere where we have these pop-up thunderstorms and we're right in this little battle zone between these ridges and these low pressure systems forming, you always have a chance of there being a mesoscale convective system, or MCS. I've said this a bunch of times on the channel, but these MCSs are the main reason why you can have excessive rainfall amounts in a short period of time, which of course leads to flash flooding. Last thing we'll go over here is our rainfall totals. This is pretty much just going to coincide with everything that we've just talked about here, so we're just going to skip right to the end once this loads. Got a little ahead of myself there. But if you look here, this is where our marginal risk is set up for today, and this is where our excessive rainfall rates are in the slight risk are not excessive rainfall rates. Can't speak. This is also where we are looking at the slight risk on our excessive rainfall outlooks. Right around here, this is our bullseye here. We're looking at rainfall rates about 3, 4, 5 inches within a couple of days. It's a pretty impressive amount. And then around here, of course, we do have some pretty impressive rainfall rates here as well. We're sitting at about 1 to 2 inches within the next couple of days. Threat isn't as high, but it's still notable. But we'll also have to watch towards southern Minneapolis as well for excessive rainfall. Then towards the south and east, things are a little bit better. There is a little small area where we're hitting about 2 to 3 inches over here as well. So we'll have to be watchful around East Kentucky yet again. But beyond that though, that's pretty much all I got for you. Again, either tonight or tomorrow morning I will have another video going over the weather that could be ahead for next week. But in any case, this has been Tyler Metalhead Weatherman, and I will see you guys very soon.